Good.
Hi, George.
Who are you?
I'm your old student.
Oh, right, yeah, right, okay. Right, your name is?
Mike Peña.
Mike Peña?
Yeah, and you're George Parker.
I'm
course.
George Parker,
You're the
that's right.
infamous George Parker.
Right, all right, so, and we are both instructors here at the Houston Community College Film Program.
Indeed we are.
And we are supposed to be talking about the state of the film industry here in Houston, Texas?
So we're told.
Yes, all right. Well, it's going to be a short conversation. No. Let's start with, how did you get into the industry, right?
Yeah, sure.
What made you want to be a filmmaker? I mean,
Yeah,
especially in Houston?
Yeah, awesome.
Was that by choice?
Yeah, so I grew up here, and like I was born in Miami, but I grew up here in Houston, and I've always loved movies ever since I was a kid. So when it came time for me to go to film school, the only thing I could think of was when it came time for me to go to college, the only thing I could think of was film school. But there weren't any film programs at the time in Houston, so I went to Full Sail for a year and got my associates there. And then when I came back after having run out of money.
Full Sail's in Atlanta, right?
It's in Winter Park, Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's like right outside of Orlando, and they kind of just like push you through. Like it was a really interesting experience. But then I worked here on sets locally, and then I learned that the Art Institute had just reopened their film program that they had in the '90s. So that's when I signed up for that, and that's when I met you. That's when you were my teacher, and you were my teacher then, which is crazy to say, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Almost, not quite, like 15 years ago. And it was there that like I like kind of confirmed that I was passionate about writing. I'd always kind of been into that, but it was there like in your class that I was like, yeah, writing is what I'm most passionate about, that, and then after that I kind of fell into teaching,
Yeah.
How about you? What's your story with yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a very similar story.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I did a lot of that stuff in high school, but my dad wanted me to be an engineer. So, I went to the University of Houston, and I was an engineering student for a while, and realized that nobody else in the room was anything like me, and I was like, this isn't the place for me. So I studied theater because there was no film program in Houston at the time.
Yeah, same. I mean,
Not at U of H, not anywhere.
I was at Lone Star for a while, and I was going to be a philosophy major, and then I started reading Nietzsche, and I dropped out. I was super depressed. So it's the same thing, like looking for film programs, which is why I'm so grateful for our program here at HCC, But Art Institute was also great when it was there.
Yeah, I mean, they were the first game in town. It was the first program it was a bachelor's program.
Right, yeah.
And, I had just finished graduate school at Columbia for film, and I was back here in Houston because I've always wanted to be a Texas filmmaker. It's what I knew. I grew up in Houston. I really thought Houston had a lot to offer in terms of locations. And, I mean, it was so diverse, lots of interesting locations, and I hadn't seen Houston really represented in film nearly enough. Everybody wants to make films in New York and Los Angeles, or make New York and Los Angeles look like some other place. So that was always my goal, was to be a Houston area filmmaker. But when I got back here, I got a call from the Art Institute saying, hey, we're looking for instructors. They had just started the program. And I thought, well, I mean, what do you think is important for a vibrant film community in a city?
I think what you did is important, right? Because you could have stayed in New York, or you could have gone to LA. And the fact that you decided to come back home because you grew up here, right? Is, I think that's important. I think like what you did is not what I think most people do. And I think that is super important to Houston because we're the fourth largest city in the country, right? And we have in my opinion, we have a lot of talented filmmakers in Houston, but they don't seem to stick around. Many of them don't seem to stick around. And so I think from my humble experiences, the most important thing is collaboration, you know? Like, I know you guys, when we were at AI, you always used to encourage us to work together, and it's kind of something that I do now here at HCC. I encourage the students here to work together outside of class and work on each other's projects and build up their reels and portfolios, because what they're actually doing is building up like a little production company. They're building up a crew,
Yep.
you know, and that crew can stick together and do great things. And I'd always kind of suspected this just from like the stuff that I knew about film history, but now that I'm teaching film history, it's kind of confirmed that all of the important film movements that have happened in history have started it started with young people, and it's all started either by critics that wanted to change the status quo or from film schools, coincidentally, right? So again, not because we're here, but this is where it's at, you know, like this is like the arena for a thriving film community. It starts with education.
Yep, I think so.
And it's important that the people that learn together stay together and continue to collaborate. And that'll only make the city stronger.
Yeah, I mean, a film community is, I think there's two key catalysts for what makes a film community happen in a city.
Yeah.
One is the people and the creative and the crew.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is money, you know?
Totally.
So,
But it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, though, right? Because, you know, I think, like take, I guess, like Richard Linklater in Austin, right? Like, he, really talented filmmaker. Not that Austin didn't have a film scene before Richard Linklater, but because of his work, you know, like Slacker specifically, like, and also starting like the Austin Film Society, all that stuff, like, Austin grew as a film community. Like, I think objectively because of his creativity and his decision to, even though he worked in Hollywood, he stayed in Austin and always returned to Texas, right?
yeah, I mean, it was the UT Film School that was kind of started the hub and incubated those filmmakers.
But I think all those things are related, right? Not only does Austin have a great film program with the UT Film School, but it's also, like you said, like somebody who's like exceptionally talented and creative, and then keeps like whatever buzz they generate, they keep it in the city. They bring it back to the community as opposed to just going away and taking it with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can be a brilliant filmmaker, right? You can have all the best ideas in the world, but if you can't collaborate, if you can't communicate, if you can't create a community to make those creative ideas actually come to life, you're just kind of sitting in a dark room imagining great things, and that's it. I mean, no film ever gets made that way.
Yeah, and I think, I think film arguably is the most collaborative art form possibly in all of the art forms, right? Like, it really genuinely is a team sport. And I think, in my opinion, right, like, a lot of people want to be directors, right? Because that's that position has its
That's until they actually try it.
it's until they actually try it, right? But even then, right, that position has a certain amount of glamour to it, right? And I think it's also really important in a thriving community. How shall I say this? Is realizing that everybody has different strengths, right? And to like truly collaborate with people, like for example, if I want to be a director, right? Like if I wanted to direct a movie right now, right? I would call you before I would direct it, right? You know what I mean? Like, because I know that there are people in the community that are stronger directors than I am.
Yeah, you have to surround yourself with the right people, the right attitude,
Right. Yeah.
and the right skill set, and that's part of the community that makes that film, right? And so, like, in any city, like, productions come from LA to Houston. Famously, Sean Baker shot a film recently, Red Rocket, in Texas
Very
City.
close,
So productions come to Houston, but a lot of the times they bring, key crew members from out of the city.
Right.
And a lot of the argument that I've heard why productions don't come here more often is one, money,
Yeah, the tax incentives, yeah.
and the other one is there's not the crew to support the production, or
Which is fascinating because-
it's not organized enough here for them to feel like that's an option. There's plenty of really great crew here that have been here, for 20 plus years. But it does kind of take a group effort of both, a production, a producer that has those connections that can also draw the money to the city as well.
Right.
And make a convincing case. I mean, some of it is just salesmanship, So
And I think that's the case also that would happen in Atlanta and Georgia. Like films go there because of their tax breaks and incentives, but they also have a thriving community.
They have
in
crew.
and of itself. So it's there, like you said, there's like two things. It's like productions coming to us and us making like good stuff, right?
Right.
But until we have those productions coming to us, right? Like I think it's up to us, like to our community, to make stuff to want people to shoot here. Right? Make people want to come and shoot here. So that's why, like, especially for like students that are about to graduate, and we've both been here for a while. Like I think the solution to like working here, if you want to be like a narrative filmmaker and you don't want to work in like industrial video, right, is make stuff yourself, right? Like that's like be like truly independent filmmaker and make stuff yourself. And how do you do that, right? Like that's the magic question, right? Like the magic. So I think it stems from forming a community with your peers and then keeping that community together, and also like, in my opinion, again, like making sure that you're cross-pollinating, because I think another thing that can happen is that cliques form. And it's like, okay, I've got my own clique over here, we've got our clique over here, but those cliques never work together.
Yeah, I mean, just in the professional world here in Houston, I mean, it's very much that way.
Like I think of Roger Corman, like all the opportunities that Roger Corman gave to like all the filmmakers that had just graduated from film school that ended up becoming who they are today, right? Like Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, like all of those people, right? So like where's our Roger Corman,
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, Jeff Fontaine, who was a gaffer and a producer in town, he'd collaborated with somebody, and they had a deal with Tubi to shoot something like 50 feature films.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they only gave them about $50,000 a piece.
Right.
So you had to make a feature film for $50,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was sort of the Corman approach. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like produce. There's a hunger for content. There are platforms out there that are looking for stuff.
So who did he use? Did he produce all 50 of them, or was he like
He invited anybody. If you had a script and
That's great. So what became of that?
several people. Like I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got to all 50.
Yeah.
But several features were being made at the time. Yeah.
That's great. But I think it's stuff like that. I mean, I think that is great. Like
It kind of starts there, I think.
Yeah.
But to get back to the idea that here we are, a film school in Houston, and we're tasked with educating students and doing so in a meaningful way. Like they're not, they may be here because they like movies, but I think every one of them is thinking, I'm going to make a career out of this, right?
Right.
I'm going to be able to make a living doing this.
Right.
And, part of what we have to do is figure out how do we train those students for the workforce that's available to them, right? How do we help them get a job? I mean,
I also like give them like a realistic answer of their prospects.
Right. I mean, not all programs are the same. Columbia was very much about sort of the independent film industry in New York, and all the connections and the networking that the school provided was about sort of introducing you to that community and which is a very competitive one, right?
Of course.
And then schools like AFI in
LA,
LA, that's very much sort of like, I would say, a workforce program. I mean, it's really about,
It's like an
training you
internship
to mainline you into the LA industry there, right?
Totally.
It's like the school is designed to
Well, it's like
create students.
The studios like sponsor it, right?
Absolutely,
They fund the program.
and you get, you'll get a job working, who knows what.
Yeah. There's also like, I know Nickelodeon does like a writer's training program, like different production companies have their like internship programs that, again, it's a pipeline directly into the industry.
And the interesting thing about those opportunities is they're not necessarily limited to a particular school or even a particular city. Anybody can, apply for those internships.
With the production company.
Yeah. Right. But in Houston, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, the independent mindset, this idea that, you don't just walk out of these doors and you're just all on your own, right? We haven't done our students, the service if they walk out of here without a cohort of filmmakers that they go on and
collaborate
with, whether that's doing, corporate stuff or commercial work or shooting short films, shooting short narratives, or, one of those topics that we haven't really, the school hasn't really focused on so much as, the whole social media side of things, that is, all of, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, I mean, those are giant fishbowls. I mean, there's just so much content. How do you get visibility in something like that? But I think, working in the industry here, it really is about networking with the folks that are in the city that are producing work, because there is plenty of work to do, and training students to figure out, how could I fit into this industry? How do I make myself an asset on not just a set in Houston? Because what makes you successful here would make you successful anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
But those networking skills are kind of super important.
Absolutely. And, I think Houston's a great town for like industrial work, like the oil and gas industry, great town for industrial work, great town for like commercials, but it's like, as a film community, like, what do we want our film community to be? Like, what do we want our strength to be?
Yeah.
And that's the type of work that we should be making, and again, there's a bunch of amazing film production companies in town, and of course, a lot of their reels are like, centered on industrial work and commercial work, which is great, right? But, if we want our community to be, a visual storytelling community or more narrative community, it's up to us, right? Mm-hmm. And specifically the students, right? Because, they're the next batch, right? So,
right.
I mean, Houston's it's been an interesting place. So I guess going back to like you coming here, has there ever been like a thought to like work elsewhere?
For me, not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think when I started, when I went into graduate school, I mean, I had my ideas, just like anybody else.
Right.
It's like, writer, director, or, I sit in a coffee shop and work on my screenplay and get distracted by what am I going to say to, Jimmy Fallon when I'm on the show talking about my Oscar,
Writing
we all have these sort of ideas, right? But I'm sure I've told you this before, but, I kind of started film school with this personal premise, which was I wanted to expand people's minds in terms of what cinema can do. And that just came from my own relationship to cinema, like what I had felt when I had watched films, the kind of experiences that I had as an audience member. I had some pretty profound ones, and I thought, this is pretty special, this is pretty magical. And I wanted to continue that because, you go for every one film that, really makes a meaningful impact on me, there's probably 50 to 100 that are garbage.
That don't, exactly.
And so I felt like, there's a real there's real need here. It's like, I wanted to expand audiences' mind in terms of what cinema can do. And I thought initially that was to be a filmmaker and make movies that did that.
Yeah.
But then I came back to Houston with that intent. I started teaching and realizing that premise was about expanding students' minds in terms of what cinema can do, and let them go out and spread the word and, take whatever I had to offer and run with it and see where it goes.
And if I could like, speak as one of your students, like I would say that you've accomplished that, and so thank you, because I think your way of thinking about film, and you've been teaching for a very long time now, I think, right? Like 15 years, right?
Yeah,
Ish,
something like that.
right? So like, I think I was one of your first students here in Houston, right? So me and all the students that came after me, like, certainly, I'll just speak for myself. You've certainly influenced the way I think about film, right? And now that I teach, like, I always apologize to my students because I'm like, if you have Parker and you have me, like, you're gonna hear the same stuff. Like, I'm gonna regurgitate.
That's great. They can't hear it enough.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, it's a certain way to think about filmmaking that will hopefully make for lack of a better term, better movies, right?
Yeah.
Or more engaging movies, or movies that actually mean something, and not to get too artsy fartsy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't shoot for a film that's going to, expand people's minds.
Yeah.
You have to shoot for creating filmmakers that find a process, and that is what actually creates something meaningful, right? And so the students that we turn out here, I mean, this is the only game in town.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important part of, any sort of film community. I mean, without a school, without sort of, these hungry minds coming out of this program, like really looking for something to do and trying new things.
And I suppose the philosophy that I've settled on now, kind of like, teaching and kind of passing on the knowledge that has been passed on to me, is like everything, like the stuff that you taught us that, we both teach now, like they're all, and I tell my students this all the time, they're all tools for engagement. Like your movie could be incredibly profound, but if you're not engaging the audience, then it'll be a moot point. They'll have missed it, right? So like everything that we teach is a way to keep the audience engaged. And I mean, that's like the one of the pillars of visual storytelling is keeping the audience engaged so that they are part of the conversation. It's not, the film takes place, as you've taught us, in the audience's mind, right? And it's having what you think the film is match, like what they think the film is match what your intention is as the filmmaker.
Closing that gap.
Exactly, right? So all about clarity and narrative clarity and making sure that the audience is engaged. So I think it's those things, like to kind of circle back, like the foundation of a strong film community is education, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's helping, like we could make movies like that, or we could teach or also teach people to perhaps think in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was at Columbia, we would often have projects that we had to shoot over the break. And I would always come back to Houston and I would shoot my project here.
Yeah.
And, I had my mentors in Houston that sort of encouraged me. One of them was Steve Barnett, who was an art director here in town. And, he was always just gung-ho. Like, when I ever came back to town and I had a project, he was like, all right, let's get this. And, he knew everybody in town. I would have professional filmmakers working on my set.
That's awesome,
I thought it was interesting. It was terrifying. And they found dealing with me as a student frustrating.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right? I had no idea.
But how lucky that you had them on your
did.
set.
I learned, crash course.
Yeah,
Crash course in dealing with, filmmakers in town who, some of them had worked on huge, feature film productions, and some of them had shot their own projects even and gotten some attention from that. But then ultimately, there was no school here.
Yeah.
It was almost like at the time, filmmakers came here to make a living, and really they had nowhere else to go because they were just waiting for the next thing to come to town so they could work on a set.
Houston's always been baffling to me for that reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's simply that. It was very much about a film industry that was about work and about getting that next gig. and there wasn't necessarily so much of the luxury of going out and trying the next thing. And that, I think that has changed quite a bit. You know, I know a lot of filmmakers who are working as either, you know, a field mixer or sound person on set, but they're also a director, and they're directing things.
Right.
And they're working on, you know, productions. I mean, so you're seeing more of that where they feel, you know, encouraged, enabled, and feel like they have a community now where they can try these things.
That's another thing about Houston. Like, I feel like generally, you know, we talked about film being super collaborative, but I think more and more it's a specialized art form. Everybody has their specialties. But I feel like also in Houston, there's a lot of jack of all trades, which is a great thing, right? But, you know, I don't know if that necessarily makes our, you know, like, you know, what's the saying? Jack of all trades, master of none, or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's important. You know, somebody, you know, a Renaissance person, or you know, I think you have to have.
Do you think you have to be well-rounded or a specialty?
Yeah, I mean, I started off. I mean, I wanted to be a filmmaker, right?
Right.
So I had this dream, but I didn't start there. I started by, you know, being on a set and working as a grip.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of got, you know,
boom operator for me.
Right? Yeah, I worked as a grip. I worked in G&E department.
Yeah.
I worked in art department and on a lot of stuff. And you know, U of H had they didn't really have a film program, but I know that Channel 8 was, you know, would occasionally shoot some narrative stuff. And I would go in crew and PA on that, right? And so I learned a lot of those things, and I think those are important. And you know, at U of H, I left the engineering department and studied theater and photography because they didn't have a film program.
Yeah.
So I just kind of made my own. Yeah. And in the theater program, I learned a lot about acting and a lot about directing and a lot about, you know, dramatic structure and things like that. You know.
Which can be missing sometimes from film programs.
Sometimes.
Not ours.
Right.
I think ours is great.
Right. But I mean, that was the idea. It's like I wanted to know it all.
Like when I was at Full Sail, we were missing some theory. It was a very practical program, but it was missing a lot of theory. So and I'm, you know, I've always been like searching for that. You know.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for me anyway, like what's so fascinating to me, it's impossible to master for me, like storytelling, right? So I'm always like super thirsty or hungry for knowledge, you know? I'm always looking for like some sort of magic door or formula that will make me a little less bad, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist, you know? It's just, so.
Right, the artist's endeavor is like, you never actually figure it out.
Yeah.
Right, you're always trying to, you know, learn something new. I mean, that's kind of my what I tell every class at the beginning of every semester is like, I'm the most ambitious student in this room.
Yeah, like I'm a fellow student, you know, and that's why I think sometimes, you know, there's some students here, so like I bombard them with, you know, information, but that's just
I heard.
Yeah, sorry, the words got out, but. You know, it's because that's all the stuff that I'm into, and I feel it would be a disservice to not share as much as I possibly can.
Yeah,
you know,
oversharing,
like,
that's kind of your thing.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, so, because I just think, you know, like, why not provide all the tools possible, you know? And the students get to pick and choose what works for them. Like you said, it's about finding a process. Yeah. You know, and it's like, I have my own process, but everybody's totally different. So, like here's everything that I have learned, or almost everything that I've learned, and what works for you. Like, pick and choose what works for you in your own personal toolbox. Yeah. I mean, you know, what you taught us.
The professional, the toolbox. A lot of the professionals in the city, I mean, you know, every one of them started off wanting to be the filmmaker like that we all wanted to be. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes they can, you know, I sense discouragement or frustration with, you know, trying to get to the next thing, trying to get to the next production.
Or with the community
I mean, just without being specific, but the community in general. And, you know, that is the nature of the game. It's because these people care.
Yeah.
You know, it's meaningful to them. Nobody goes into filmmaking because, it sounds like a great way to make $1 million. I mean,
Right.
that's always the titillating thing.
I mean, if you do, it's a bad idea. It's a really bad idea.
Right. You look at Hollywood and you look at the films that come out of, multi-million-dollar movies, and you see so much terrible movies.
Yeah.
Right? Is that because the people in LA, the producers with all this money, are stupid?
No, I mean, I think everyone's trying to make something good. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It's because it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
You got to make all
100%.
these pieces of this puzzle
Yeah.
fit together in just the right way, and maybe something really special comes out of it, you know? And, it comes back to this idea of that community, that cohort of filmmakers that work well together and feel encouraged and liberated and willing to take risks and try something new.
Well, it's like almost like I almost see it as like if you're trying to break into like the American film industry, like Hollywood, right? It's like this impenetrable fortress, or it feels that way sometimes. And maybe you can like sneak through a crack in one of the walls, right? Mm-hmm. Or instead, you can create your own little civilization outside of that, and then be invited into the great walled city.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I think of it.
Yeah, that was advice somebody gave me one time.
It's kind of a crazy metaphor. But
yeah, don't just show up to LA thinking that you're going to be the next great thing.
like I'm
it's
in.
Always kind of go with an invitation.
Yeah.
Or New York or whatever it is. But sometimes lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But if you're not standing out in the open, climbing to the top of a tree, trying to get struck by lightning, chances are it's not going to happen. You can at least try.
Absolutely. And that's why, kind of also going back, like being well-rounded, like similar to you, like my first gig as an intern, which is just a fun way to not pay me, was as a boom operator. And then, also worked at Griffin Electric, PA, all that stuff. But I don't know if this happened to you, but I felt like, I was grateful for it, but I was getting called back for like either boom opping gigs or Griffin Electric gigs. And like, of course, I wanted to be a writer, right? So did you also kind of feel like you were being pigeonholed and you kind of had to take a step back to be like, hey, like thank you for considering me for these gigs, but I'm a writer, or I'm a director or whatever. Or do you feel like,
you never want to sort of walk on a set and say,
No.
hey,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I can't do that.
No.
I'm a writer.
Yeah. I don't coil cable, all right?
Yeah. I'll do that in secret, and then when I have something to show, I'll show you my script and see what
Right.
you think, and it's like, oh, I'll let them tell me I'm a writer. You know what I mean?
Of course. But it was for me, it wasn't like that I was walking on set and not wanting, like those gigs were super fun, but I felt like I was getting calls for certain things, and it was almost like,
it's easy. Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
easy to kind of get
to like you are the
get
guy
in
that
a
does
rut.
this.
Yes,
Like almost like typecast, but for like a crew position.
Yeah. Well, getting called back is great because that means that you have the most valuable asset that anybody can have on a set.
Yeah.
Which is the right attitude.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that's what's going to get you back to on any set. That's going to get you your next call, and that's what's actually going to get you your next paying gig.
Absolutely. Like you're only as good as your last job, right?
Right.
Can I ask you about your book that you've been working on?
It's still at 100 pages, man.
But that's okay.
I'm still
it's
working
in
on
there.
it. Yeah.
Like what's it like? I'm just curious because I know like as your student, we have all because I've had conversations with other of your students like Rolando, and we've commented before like, man, we wish we had like a way to revisit Parker's like lessons and his wisdom.
I wish
like,
you had that too.
Like kind of like a book, like, oh yeah, like a book, right? And then when I talked to you not too long ago and you told me you were writing a book, I was like, finally, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to look through my old notebook anymore. We could just have like a Parker book,
It's in the process.
Yeah.
And
there is demand.
It's
man.
I know,
you have an audience.
and it's constantly being researched. I mean, I got to a certain point and realized, I'm not ready to write that part yet. And my workshop, my classroom, my laboratory is the school, and figuring out, looking at what students are doing and figuring out the best way to kind of communicate so that they understand the concept, not just the way I see it, but they take the idea and go in a direction with it that I couldn't have anticipated.
Right.
I mean, that's what's really cool.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still, I'm still working on it.
Yeah, well, put me on the list.
Yeah.
Put me on the pre-order list.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure you feel this way as well. But like, for me, like feeling like a lifelong student of this art form, like I feel like I have learned so much more from teaching than I have. Because when you're teaching, like you have to like know your stuff, so like, or know something, right? So like that's another kind of avenue for film students, right, to get into teaching.
That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like me, I didn't go into the graduate program thinking I was going to teach.
Yeah,
I went
same.
in and wanted to be a filmmaker, and came out of that program realizing that what I wanted. Like the school had a lot to offer. I mean, I could have gone and stayed in New York and started working in the industry.
Right.
But I mean, that wasn't, by the end of it, there was too many questions I had. Too many questions about this art form that I wanted to know better and expected to know more about.
Yeah.
And my choice was to continue that search, And
that's the same way I felt after grad school. I didn't study film, and my master's was in creative writing, right? And specifically for like writing for the stage and screen. And I felt the exact same way. I'm like, that was great, but I still don't know everything. And, of course you never can.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, at some point,
but, like,
you can dig yourself a pretty deep hole that you'll never climb out of, because
I'm in there,
just,
I'm in there.
how deep does this go?
Yeah.
How much further can I dig?
Yeah, I'm in there.
Michael!
Yeah, and I still want you to, I want to learn more. I want you to write a book.
Yeah, right.
Give me more knowledge.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, what advice do you have for, students coming out of this program and wanting to find the next thing in Houston specifically?
I think the key to Houston, right, is like I've said before, kind of like make it the community that you want it to be, that you envision being, right? Like if you want to be a narrative filmmaker, it's up to you to make Houston a narrative filmmaking community. And I think most of our students want to be narrative filmmakers. So it's up to them to be to make the community what they want it to be. Like we've said before, continue working together, cross-pollinate with other groups. Again, I always think like it being super specialized, like, well, I want to be a writer and director, so I'm going to write all my own stuff, as opposed to being like, hey, maybe there's somebody else that is really good at writing, or maybe there's somebody else that's a really good cinematographer, right? Like, maybe because writing is like my focus, but I find that that positions like editing, cinematography, sound, all of those like really important positions are always, people are always sought out that are specialists. They're really good at that, right?
Technicians.
Exactly. Editors, color graders, right? But writers and directors, I can do that, right? Nobody seeks out who's the best writer in our community.
My grandmother has a feature film script.
Exactly, right.
If you want to read it.
Exactly, because I mean, I think anything that's worth doing looks really easy to do. Or let me put it this way: when things look really easy, it's because whoever's doing them is really good at it. So like writing and directing are one of those things that look like anybody can do, right? And I have so much respect for anyone that tries to make something and that they finish a project. Like that is a win in and of itself. But
it is.
But going back to Houston, right? Like I think there's so many filmmakers which are great and they're super brave, but maybe seek out the specialists in those areas the way you would seek out a specialist in editing or cinematography. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, you've made this case a couple of times about teaching narrative storytelling.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of a conflict in the sense that most students coming out of this program are not necessarily going to get work shooting narrative in Houston.
Yeah.
They're going to get work crewing, doing post-production, doing production, working on, like we said, commercials, industrials. Maybe they're crewing on a TV show or something like that, whether they stay here or go elsewhere. But I don't say that because I feel like there's any case to be made that narrative storytelling shouldn't be taught or shouldn't be the focus.
Right.
There is a good reason why narrative storytelling should be the focus.
Yeah.
Because the skill set that any student, no matter what department they end up in, where they tend to specialize, what sort of technician they become on a set, they're way better at their job and can be creative if they understand storytelling and the whole game of why anybody's there to begin with.
Yeah, I wonder why we agree. It's almost like you taught me.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
No, easy interview.
Right, exactly.
Not much of a debate here.
Yeah, but it's just, I say that in my class all the time, because not everybody that's in my class wants to be a writer, right? People want to be editors, but it's like, I tell them all, if you want to be editor, you have to understand story structure. Like, you're essentially writing the last draft of the screenplay, right? And in the same token, if you want to be a screenwriter, you have to understand about editing. You have to understand how things are going to cut together, you know? So you can write visually, for cinema, right? So, I totally agree. And it's almost like, I guess, learning jazz if you want to be a musician, right? Like, if you learn how to be a narrative filmmaker, you can shoot documentaries, you can shoot industrials, you can shoot commercials. Like, if you know how to tell stories, you can do everything.
Right, but it's the same game no matter what. I mean, even if you're shooting TikTok videos, if you don't understand storytelling,
right,
and the conceptual side of that and the practical side of how you apply those things, I mean, you're just going to be lost in the sea of TikToks out there.
Right, but if, for example, if you just learn how to shoot commercials, for example, doesn't mean you can shoot a movie. Doesn't mean you can tell a story.
That's
true.
What I mean? Yeah,
if you just study how to shoot commercials or you just study how to record football games, you won't be able to make a movie. But if you understand how to tell a story and make a narrative film, I think you can do all those other things.
If you understand storytelling.
Exactly.
And you get a job shooting football, while you're shooting it,
it'll be a much better football video.
But it is feeding the creative side of things, right?
Totally.
I mean, I think it's important, right? You don't want to come out of a program, get a job, working in a particular department, and then just feel like you're discouraged and there's no way to do something else.
Yeah.
And that's part of that is how do we transform Houston? How do we continue to grow Houston? Because things are changing, I think. And
how do you feel I'm curious, on your take on that. How do you feel like Houston is changing?
I think that there are more filmmakers here. I think there's a younger crowd shooting things. I think, I look at the professionals in the field here, and, 10 years ago, the vibe was somewhat discouraged.
Yeah.
And frustrated.
Yeah.
And, not that doesn't exist here, and it won't exist in the future, but I think that there is a sense of they're finding more fulfilling means of creating.
That's great. Yeah.
Creating work, creating their own work.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm almost in a sort of self-imposed exile. I feel like I definitely felt more. Yeah, I'm in the whole researching. But I definitely it's like I'm shedding or something. I don't know, in the shed, practicing or whatever. But it's I definitely felt more connected to the film community 10 years ago. But yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
I teach. I'm happy teaching. But Houston's an interesting place, It's like we said before, there's little pockets, little cliques.
Well, I mean, a lot of what I hope I get to do with my students is make projects.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just like the whole idea of storytelling is about designing an experience for an audience.
Right.
What do I want my audience thinking and feeling?
Yeah.
When I teach a class and
Sounds
when I help a class shoot a project, I mean, I try to stay out of the way, but one of the things I try to manage most is their experience making the project.
Right.
Because process over product any day, right?
Yeah.
If I can make the process of making this film, and it can be scary, it can be overwhelming, it can be daunting because you know, they don't have much experience to fall on and, you know, walking into some of this a little blind. But if I can make it a positive experience, I think that goes directly into the community that they walk out in, right?
Absolutely.
They're going to take that experience with them, and they're going to look to create that experience for themselves. And that's where great stuff gets
when
made.
they step into like the larger pond and they join into that pond, they will change. I'm going to keep going with this metaphor, the pH balance of that pond, right?
Right, yeah.
You know,
yeah, right.
exactly. If, you know, we put like some positivity out there, right? Yeah, I totally agree with that, you know, and finding a process that works. It's almost like how can we bridge the gap between the, like what you were saying, like when they leave here, they enter the larger film community, but they enter it with like a solid working process and like positive energy, and that'll just make the whole community better.
I think that's our charge, man. I think that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I hope we're doing that. Yeah. But yeah, it's
Well, we'll keep on fighting the good fight. All right.
of course. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.